All right, guys, so let's talk about another example, and this one is going to be personal trainers. And so we're going to do Boston for this example. So we chose Boston. Obviously, we named it. The interest the same. So we're going to choose Boston, Massachusetts. We're just going to drop a pin here like we already did and choose, plus or minus, a general area like that. And so this one is going to be a little bit different, though. My initial kind of estimates and thoughts of what a personal trainer would be people 21 through 35 who are women, right? Women are much more likely, just through hundreds of thousands of dollars of spend, to be interested in personal trainer, weight loss types of offers than men are, especially from a Facebook ad. Men generally, being interested in fitness and things like that comes more attuned to sports and actually word of mouth from our experience. And so these are the detailed targeting that we're interested in. But how we're going to organize this specific video is a little bit more attuned to how we actually go about doing our initial, quote unquote, shot in the dark, where we guess what we think the best type of detailed targeting is going to be. We guess what type of age, gender, and things like that. But for this specific video, we're going to do it a little bit more how I like to do things. And so to know for sure that someone is interested in personal training or specifically, weight loss or getting in shape, right? We want to choose the best detailed targeting out of all of this in our opinion, right? And so the best three, in my opinion, are MyFitnessPal, Anytime Fitness, and 24 Hour Fitness. If you've liked 24 Hour Fitness's page, Anytime Fitness's page, or MyFitnessPal, which is a kind of a fitness app that helps you track things related to fitness, then I know for almost a fact that you are interested in fitness, you're interested in losing weight, you're okay with going to a gym, and you're okay with putting forth the effort of actually downloading kind of a fitness-related app, right? And so after we kind of decide what our favorite, 1, 2, or 3 interests are, after kind of doing some brainstorming, going through the demographics here, we can literally type in fitness if we have no thoughts at all and go through all of these and think to ourselves, okay, yeah, I think MyFitnessPal actually probably is a really good one, because if someone's willing to go and download an app, then they probably care a lot about fitness, because that's a lot of work, right? And so don't ever let yourself get overwhelmed, right? You can literally type in personal trainer and Facebook's going to give you a bunch of options, and you can literally go down and start to choose the ones that you think are interesting and things like that. So once you kind of decided on some, now we're going to use Facebook's actual data. So here we are in Audience Insights, and again, to get here, you just go to All Tools, Audience Insights. And what we're going to do is, since we know that we're simulating this as if we were advertising for a personal trainer in Boston, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to type in an interest here. And I think my favorite one, just to start out with, is going to be MyFitnessPal. Because again, if someone's willing to download a fitness app, then they're probably interested in fitness. So we're going to do MyFitnessPal. And we see that 54% women changed to 70% women. So 54% of Facebook is women, but now people who are interested in MyFitnessPal are 70% women. So we were right? But it's not as drastic as I would have thought. Yeah, I would have thought that it would have been more like 80 or 90%, but that's actually, that's good for us. So that means that we're not actually going to do just women like we thought. It's worth running a split test, of all of men and of women, right? So because if it was like 98% women, then just choosing women, we wouldn't even have to split test it. Or if it was 90%, we probably still wouldn't have to split test it. But since it's 70-30, it's worth split testing. So my initial guess was 21-year-olds through 35-year-olds. And we see right here that 25-year-olds through 34-year-olds are actually the dominant, right? 18 through 24 is actually a very low percentage, and the dominant age range of MyFitnessPal is actually much older than I originally thought, right? And so I hope you guys are seeing how exciting this is using Audience Insights once you kind of establish your best guess. So my best guess is going to be one of these two, of one of these three. And we see that my ages are all wrong, right? So instead of starting out with my, shot in the dark kind of initial test with a lot of thought and, estimates and kind of premeditation, I'm going to change this to 25 here. And I'm going to change this up until 44, because we see after 44, it's a stark drop, right? All of these older kind of age ranges are significantly lower. And so we're going to end it at 44. Let's look at page likes. So people who are interested in MyFitnessPal are also interested in Hungry Girl, Beachbody. Okay, Weight Watchers is a great one that I didn't think about. So I'm definitely going to add Weight Watchers here. Weight Watchers. We're going to make sure we don't choose employers here. We're going to choose interests. And that might be a really good one also. So let's actually now erase, or actually before we do that, let's actually put in Boston here. So we can get even more specific. So now we're in Boston, and it went from 70% women to 66% women. And look at this change. This is a very interesting one. The 25 through 34-year-olds actually shot up significantly, right? So now it's 41% between 25 and 34. So maybe our first split test, if we're choosing Boston specifically, would be 25-year-olds through 34-year-olds instead, because Boston, obviously, according to Facebook, has a younger demographic who's interested in fitness relative to the United States as a whole. Right, so that's a very, very important piece of knowledge for our initial kind of shot in the dark. So we're going to do 25 through 34-year-olds. And so now let's try a new one, right? So let's erase Boston. Let's erase MyFitnessPal. And let's try 24-hour fitness. So now we see the ratio drops even more to more kind of equal. So it was 70% women, and now it's 58% women, which means that we would definitely here want to, split test both genders, right? Starting with all, duplicating, starting with just men, duplicating, starting with just women, right? And so now let's see. So it's 58% women here, and then if we put in Boston, or actually let's look really quick. So we see that a big percentage, especially of men actually, is 25 through 34-year-olds related to 24-hour fitness. If we put in Boston here, then we see that this is a huge contrast. Look at this, enormous contrast. Everything drops off significantly. So if we were gonna run a campaign here, right, maybe we want 24-hour fitness by itself, and we wanna run 24-hour fitness only to 25 through 34-year-olds, because we see that a massive amount of 25 through 34-year-olds who are interested in 24-hour fitness who live in Boston, right? So we're gonna leave this as 25 through 34-year-olds. We're gonna do all, and then again, split test it on just men and women. And we can run this exactly like this, or we can make it much simpler and just run 24-hour fitness by itself, or maybe 24-hour fitness. So let's make this simpler. Before we do, let's actually talk about this. So these are personal trainers, obviously Jenny Craig, Jillian Michaels, personal trainer. I don't know how that slipped in there. That's an algorithm based because there's no personal trainer page, right? Slim Fast. Active credit card users, right? People who are active credit card users are more likely to actually make purchases. And so I use this one a lot. It's 130 million people, so it doesn't really, kind of cramp your audience size too bad. Health and wellness buyers, physical fitness, right? So let's, this is actually pretty good. So let's illustrate something though. So right now we see that we have an audience size with the little arrow pointing up, and I know that's like very kind of like primitive and basic, but it's a reasonably good kind of indicator of the audience size being the correct size. So let's get rid, of all of those. Okay. So now we see that our potential reach is 500 through 1,500 with 27,000 potential reach total, right? And so let's, just for the sake of experiment, let's get rid of one of the big ones. So if we get rid of physical fitness, okay, down to 22,000. Let's get rid of health and wellness, down to 21,000. Let's get rid of Weight Watchers. That'll make it small. 12,000, MyFitnessPal, 3,400. Right, so we see as we remove these that give you a larger pool, it makes the potential reach significantly smaller, right? And now we see that our potential reach says 2,100 people, and the arrow is now pointing into the red. When it points into the red, or it points into the broad, I can't tell if that's yellow, or points into the broad area, that means that Facebook is telling you that for this specific interest, based off of their historical data, that your audience size is either too small or too broad, and you need to add more kind of detailed targeting. And so, for every different niche, for entrepreneurship, for weight loss, for supplements, for sports, for anything, right? Facebook has just troves of data basically on all of these different types of niches, and it gives you kind of an indication of specific and broad. I have run very, very successful campaigns that are still pointing to too specific. Facebook tells me it's too specific to run ads, and then you still can run ads to it. But I've never ran a successful ad that was in the broad, right? So always make sure that you're either pointing straight up into the green or in the red. I've run very, very profitable ad campaigns often when it's pointing into the red, and Facebook will literally tell you like you can't run an ad because it's too specific, and then you press OK, and then it runs the ad, which is fine because Facebook, like every piece of software, has glitches and things like that. But generally, guys, you want this to point up at the sky, right, into the middle of the green here. But don't let it, right, and I'm going to repeat, do not kill yourself if it's in the red, because it still can be very successful, but just generally you want it to point up into the green. And so we're going to add back MyFitnessPal. And now we see that the arrow is back up at the green, and so this would be an ad campaign that we'd be comfortable of running, right? And so let's try one more. I think we had Anytime Fitness. Yeah. So let's erase Boston just for one more example so we can really hammer this home. And let's do Anytime Fitness. So we see that it's pretty similar, 56% women, 44% men. And then if we put in Boston, we see that it's less like very young people and significantly more through the 25 through 44-year-old range. And so we've seen a lot of similarity. The reason that we looked at Anytime Fitness, 24-Hour Fitness, and MyFitnessPal was to try to establish a pattern, right? 3 independent yet horizontally related topics show us the pattern of the data, right? A very obvious pattern in Boston was that 25 through 34-year-olds dominate who are interested in these 3 interests that we think are the most closely match the perfect customer of our personal trainer, right? And so that is how I use audience insights to help me figure out, what interest to target, what age range to target, whether to target men or women, right? If we wanted to look at Anytime Fitness again, and we wanted to get ideas of other things, like that's exactly how I found Weight Watchers, right? So we could add Weight Watchers back here. The first time, oops, that was employers. You got to make sure that you look closely because you don't actually accidentally want to choose employers, right? So Weight Watchers here. Now we see Anytime Fitness. Planet Fitness is another great one that I didn't think about before. So we can put in Planet Fitness interests here. It's a great one. Corner Mall, right? These are Boston specific. Oh, because we're in Boston. So page likes. But that's actually a good point. Let's talk about that for a second. So if we do Boston, then it'll actually show us page likes that other people are likely to have that are in Boston. So we can actually get super specific and then try in our split test to actually like a specific gym, for example, or a bowling alley that people who like the gym also like. So there's basically infinite opportunities, guys. The only reason you could ever fail with Facebook ads is not being willing to try enough split tests. And so that is how we take a lot of the guesswork out. So I wanted to show you the first example, kind of doing it just from scratch and logic, just to get your kind of cogs moving and things like that. But then don't ever let yourself do it without, or do this process without utilizing the unbelievable amount of data that Facebook provides for you. Understanding how to harness the data and how to use that data to your advantage is how you win as a Facebook marketer, guys. So I hope you enjoyed that one, and let's get to the next.